Hi guys, welcome to another All Things Tennis racket review. Today I'm stood here with the new Babolat Strike VS. So this racket actually isn't out yet, it's probably due into the UK next month. This is a little demo we got thanks to the guys at Babolat for sending it over. So we're going to talk about what I liked about the racket. It's a completely new frame, so there's nothing in terms of improvements from an older model, but we'll take you through all of the specs, what we like about the racket and what kind of person it suits. So here it goes. So this Pure Strike VS, let's start with the specs. So the racket comes in at 310 grams, it's a 97-inch square racket. It's got a variable beam, so it slightly becomes thicker, a little bit up here for a bit more stability. It's a really stunning racket as well. I don't know if you can see, it's got that kind of chrome texture to it. Really nice detailing with the strike here. I think it's a racket that when you pick up, you immediately want to play with. It's a very, very good looking racket, this one. So one thing that they've done in terms of the frame that they've not done before is a longer bumper strip. I don't know if you can see it there. Basically the bumper strip comes down quite far down into the frame. It's something Babolat maybe have got a little bit of criticism in the past when they made their bumper indent here in the older Pure drives, or maybe it was a little bit short. So this protects the racket a lot better, makes it look newer for longer, and obviously you've got the sense that this kind of longer grommet almost reminds me of a Prestige cap grommet or something. Obviously that's a little bit longer than a Prestige right the way down, but it's definitely longer than conventional rackets. The 97-inch frame is a new one as well. I like that. I think 98s are very, very popular at the moment. We've talked before on the channel about 98 inches and 305 being right in the wheelhouse of lots of brands at the moment. 97 inches and 310 isn't really done all that much. I think the only other racket that's 97 that springs to mind is like a Pro Stuff 97. So this is definitely a super controlled racket from Babolat. It's one really for some people that like a more traditional feel, and what I mean by that is thinner beam rackets that don't give you a lot but give you a nice stability and feel. Definitely felt really nice on volleys when I was coming in, quite plush feeling. Definitely not as stiff as other Babolats in the range, so your Pure Aeros or Pure drives. A little bit more flexible, and it felt super stable. 310 is a solid weight, but it definitely played, I'd say, a little bit more stable than a 310. It felt like I was holding like a 320, 330 racket in my hand. But at the same time, I didn't feel like it was too heavy. I think that's due to the balance really. So it's 10 points head light from stock, which obviously is very head light. That might be to do with the fact that you've got a wonderful leather grip underneath the frame as standard. So obviously we've got the little Pro overgrip here, the head one, but you've got a really nice leather grip that's standard, like a calfskin leather grip. That is an added bonus, especially for purists that like playing with the leather grip. The leather does alter the feel. Obviously it's a firmer feel on the grip, and you probably get a bit more vibrations through the frame. So if you wanted to soften up the feel a little bit, you could do that by putting a softer grip on. So maybe something like a Babolat Excel Gel, you know, a Syntec Pro skin feel from Babolat, other brands, you know, Head Hydrazor Pro may give it a little bit more feel, less firm, but it's nice to have that leather grip. Obviously, because it's heavier leather grip, that's probably what's giving it that headlight balance. So it's really 10 points headlight, very whippy racket that's definitely weights in the handle. So it kind of reminded me, I don't know if you guys have used the Pure Storm Tour before. That was a great racket from Babolat, very nice and flexy feel. The reason I mention that is it has a 16-20 pattern. So the VS, they do that quite well with Babolat. 16-19 is obviously a very used pattern. Open string pattern normally gives you nice spin and power, whereas adding the extra cross definitely does give you a little bit more control. I don't feel like it impacts on spin, but it definitely gives you more control, slightly lower launch angle. So this frame is actually thinner than the current Pure Strike. So if you think about the 16-19, weirdly it does look reasonably thick, the beam. I don't know if it's just because of the bumper going down or the paint job, but in your hand it doesn't feel particularly super thin, but it's a thinner beam than the Pure Strike standard edition, the 16-19, the Tour, etc. It does have that variable beam, but all in all, a thinner, more controlled version of the Pure Strike. at 310. Obviously not the heaviest Pure Strike, it's not as heavy as Pure Strike Tour, but I feel like 310 is heavy enough, it's nice and stable. One thing I loved about this racket was instantly on the forehand, it's so nice to just step through the ball and rip with it. It's got that particular Babolat feel where it's very, very crisp, and obviously with the lower tension, as I mentioned, it just really rips through the ball. It's super stable, it's almost like it's eating through the ball on the forehand, and it still had that natural flex in the frame. I didn't feel like it was rigid and stiff. It flexed a little bit on the forehand. I mean, it is such a nice racket for the forehand. That 16-20 pattern made sure it felt controllable for me, but flattening it out felt brilliant, and also ripping topspin was really, really nice. And that, not as much topspin as you would get with the Pure Aero, if that's going to be your game, just looking at topspin, but flattening it out was perfect with this racket. Maybe that block and return if you're trying to chip the return back, or if you're stepping into court, flattening out your forehand going for a winner. It feels beefy, it feels like there's a lot of weight behind the ball, and it's a really nice feeling racket. On the backhand, so you might be able to tell from the videos, my two-handed backhand is not the best shot in the world. However, this did feel nice and solid. I think what helps as well is obviously that 97-inch head is quick through the air, but obviously the head-light balance, with the weight more on the handle, we're able to whip through the backhand, make sure you're using that top hand. That helped, and also the slice. Well, I can easily say it's the best racket that Babolat have made in recent years to be able to slice with. It's really, really nice to slice because you've got that weight coming through the ball, and that 16-20 pattern, you can knife through a slice, it stays nice and low. It has a really nice touch and feel to it, I think, as well. One thing I'd say is that the sweet spot on it isn't huge compared to other Babolats. You know, if you think about a Pure Drive, that racket's just so easy to play with. This does maybe take a little bit of time adjustment because of the smaller head and the denser string pattern, but when you get on song with this racket, if you're feeling, you know, confident about your game, this just feels so nice compared to, you know, it's the best feel on a Babolat racket, I think I can say quite clearly. Volleys as well, I think volleys felt stable. 310 weight isn't the heaviest, but it definitely felt solid and stable, just punching volleys deep. And on the serve, this racket was really nice as well, because it's obviously head-light balance. You can whip through slice, maybe if you're a kick server, it's nice to kind of whip the racket through. Just felt really, you know, quick for a 310 racket, but also felt stable. I mean, 310, if you think about other rackets I've really promoted in the past and like a V-Core at 305 and things, this is more stable than a 305 V-Core, for example. I think it's as stable as like a Head Extreme Pro, which is 315. You know, it feels very solid. In terms of strings for this, I think where this racket would shine would be that you have to string it slightly looser. So string it with full poly, okay? I think that's a must. I know it's a controlled racket and maybe you want to use a hybrid touch around the net, but with Babolats, it's so nice to rip through the ball. I'd recommend stringing it with full poly, but going into the 40s. Now, that is becoming more and more common these days, and I think rightfully so. Polyester's material is going to be inherently stiff even at lower tension, so you're not going to find it uncontrollable. Still going to be relatively stiff feel, but this really became such a weapon in terms of the added kind of ball pocketing you had. Because it's not a hugely powerful racket, having that extra power from the lower tension really helped putting the ball away. And yeah, that really, really worked for me. I think that's a racket, this racket in the lower tension is a racket that I've been using a lot and would probably think about switching to. It's that good. So very, very excited for when it comes out. I think this is going to be a racket that's demoed a lot. You can't pick this up and not want to play with it, as I said, it looks fantastic. And it's a really nice different blend of characteristics Babolat have gone for here. I mean, the strike is more of kind of a box beam, more traditional frame. You've obviously got the longer bumper, the variable beam, the thing with the leather grip, making it head light. 16-20 is different, you know. If you've not used Babolats before and you've maybe borrowed a mate's Pure Drive, used a Pure Aero and thought, oh wow, they're wildly uncontrollable, too powerful for me, I like to be a bit more touch orientated, or you know, I don't hit with masses of spin for the baseline. This does everything really, really well. It's a must demo. And yeah, you know, when I've got access to all the rackets and can demo it, if I'm thinking about switching to it, it must be pretty nice. Try it out, demo, string loose in a poly. If it still feels maybe a little bit stiff for you, go for a hybrid, something like maybe RPM soft in the crosses as well. These kind of new age polys that are coming out, new RPM power, and also your links touch, things like that, which is still going to have a firmer feel than a standard multi, but are going to soften up the string bed a little bit if you've ever had arm problems or tennis elbow, things like that. But yeah, thanks for watching the video, guys. Take home is definitely, you've got to demo it, you've got to look at it. I don't know if it translates in, you know, a racket being listed online, quite how good looking this racket is. I mean, they do that chrome and other VS models, but this is probably my favourite looking Babolat. Leather grip is standard, they've just nailed it. So feel free to demo if you come to our Windsor store, and also from next month we will have them in stock for you to be able to buy and to demo online. As always, as a little help for watching to the end of the video, we'll give you a 10% discount. It's N10. Again, from when this gets released, okay, we're going to give it a month in terms of when this video gets released and when you can use the code. So that will give you 10% off the lowest online price, but also it may be out in a couple of weeks longer. So watch out for when it drops on our website, look at our socials in order to make sure you keep up to date with that. And please, if you like these videos, give it a like and subscribe. Everyone says it, and there's a reason why they say it. It helps grow the channel and it helps us get more racket videos to you. So thanks again for watching. See you soon.